What's up, guys? This is OJ Light, and I got a cool video for you guys today. In the YouTube comments, I am sometimes asked, where do I come from? Okay, and I understand the question. They're not asking my actual physical location. They're asking, what community did I come up in that shaped the subjects I talk about, why I talk about them, and the combination of subjects I talk about, right? And if you've been on this channel, you've heard me say this before, but again, I still get these questions. Where do I come from? And I come from the old good-looking loser community, okay, which has faded away into the history of the internets. And I wanted to present five ideas that I learned from there, each in some different categories, just so you can understand a little bit more where I come from. Okay, so for those who don't know who Good Looking Loser is, his name, Chris is who we often are referring to when we say that. There's actually a second Good Looking Loser, Scotty, who does have a YouTube channel. I would highly recommend you subscribe to him. I'll put his link in the description down below when I get this video up and running. But what Chris talked about was primarily getting laid and really hardcore self-improvement. Like, I mean, super hardcore self-improvement. Okay, we're not talking like go to the gym just once a week. We're talking like an everyday grind until he hit the goals. And he had basically 3 goals that he presented. 2 while he had the blog up, and then about a decade later, maybe 2 years ago, he came out with a video. It's been sadly it's been unlisted for now. Where he actually added a 3rd goal, and what he said was, first he got the 6-pack, then he got 200 lays, but he suggests maybe 100, at least 100, and then he became a cash millionaire, not value, but cash millionaire, and that's kind of like the 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 thing he presents, right? Now that's talked a lot about. If you watch a lot of like red pill content or men's improvement content, that's kind of a given. But at the time when he came out, it was radical. Like, I never heard anyone put it like that. Like, he was his blog was really active in the early 2010s. Basically, the last 4 years of Obama, that era, that's when his blog was really active. Okay, and it really changed the way I saw things, how I do things. I am not the most successful of his acolytes. There are guys that are way more more successful than I am, but I still have the teachings incorporated into my worldview, okay? And I kind of wanted to go over some of the things I learned from him. Five important things I got from his site, okay? And these things stuck with me. And one is spiritual, which might surprise you, but if you know this article I'm about to present, you'll be like, okay, I know what he's talking about. He fitness, meal enhancement, girls, and he had a little bit on money, okay? And these all changed the way I view things. So let me kind of start with the spiritual one, because I think this one really hit me. Now, he didn't word it like this, spiritual, but he had an article called Be a Hypocrite, okay? Be a Hypocrite. And really what he was talking about, I think hypocrite was not the right word. I don't think that was quite what he was really talking about is how people are a living paradox. That's really what he was talking about. And I really agreed with that people have attributes and beliefs that almost contradict each other, So that's why they get called a hypocrite. But it's really the fact that people are a living paradox. They are a paradox. And I kind of have a saying now: embrace the paradox. Like there's just things about me that probably would look like they would contradict each other, but it is what it is, right? And he didn't think it was a bad thing. He thought it was a good thing. And let me give you an example of like a paradox. Like, let's say somebody, the best way I could describe a paradox, guys, is where the image that you were presented conflicts with the real person, the person underneath the mask, right? That's a good way to put it. So let's say the person is on the outside, he looks like a Christian, like a really good Christian, but behind closed doors, he's like a sexual deviant. That's a paradox, okay? That's a paradox. That's a contradiction. That you would even call that a hypocrite. That's what he's saying to kind of embrace. I'm not saying that particular that's not the, you know what I'm saying. So that's one. And I really like that article. I don't know why, but that article really always stuck with me. And like I said, it was under his article, it was called Be a Hypocrite. Okay, so that's the first thing I got out of his teachings. The second thing is fitness. Now, I don't remember a actual like workout guide from his. I'm sure that he had one posted somewhere on the site, but it's not the particular like bro split, or that's not what I'm talking about. He kind of presented with me a strategy of losing weight and gaining muscle, okay? And the strategy seems real simple, but again, at the time, this was the early internet days. There wasn't like the information there is now. Like there's so much information now. It's insane. Back then, it wasn't like that. The thing he taught was, and I still do this today. What's the first major activity when you wake up? Go to the gym. Okay, so I wake up and do early workouts. He was big on working out on an empty stomach. He claimed that you would burn more calories. I'm not sure if that's true now. I know I hear studies saying it's true. I see studies saying it's not true. I'm not sure, but I think if we take that out, I think it's a good piece of advice. The first thing to do is work out, because it sets the day, right? You accomplish something, right? So you could have the shittiest fucking day there on out where nothing gets done, but you got that done. You got that one thing done. You got your fitness in, okay? So and it builds discipline too, right? I've always said that that's probably the best thing about fitness. Even though it makes you look good, it also builds character, it builds discipline. And the other thing was he talked about very low, no carb diets. Like he never used the word carnivore diet, but I'm pretty sure he would have been on board with that. I'm pretty sure he would have been on board with that if just to note though, he wasn't anti-carb. He kind of had the Dorian Yates view of carbs. If you're fat, cut the carbs out, slim down, and once you are at a healthy body weight, then you can reintroduce them back in, right? He was more about the low carbs in a sense of like, maybe not forever, but if you're like 400 pounds overweight, they got to go until you get down to a reasonable weight. I don't remember the username. I can't remember the guy. The guy was huge when he came on the forum. He took this advice and he ran with it, and he lost a lot, man. I think he was like 400 pounds, 300, high 300, somewhere in there, and he got to like under 200, and I think about a year and a half, he went for it. He went for it, man. I can't remember the user's name. I wish I did, man. I really wish I remember some of the users' names. But I just remember he had his before and after pictures, and he allowed Chris to present it on the site as a testimonial, as proof of the stuff that he was teaching actually works. God, I can't remember the username, but it was a good, really basic things. I mean, I've taken that and I've developed, I've personally developed a more refined view of exercise and diet. I probably have more stuff on this channel than he did on his blog, but that was the foundation of what I do was presented to me by him. I do remember one lesson though he taught. One more thing he talked about it on the fitness end. He taught not to become obsessed with the gym. Like some people try to hide from their lives in the gym. Basically, they don't want to talk to girls. Maybe they're afraid to go get a job or whatever. He said don't be like a loser bodybuilder. I think it was the plight of the lonely bodybuilder, or that was something what the articles were called. I can't remember, but he had a whole thing on that. So that's the fitness thing I got from him. Number 3, male enhancement. Okay, now this is actually how I discovered Good Looking Loser. Okay, this is actually how I discovered him. It was the bathmate. I bought a bathmate. I loved the bathmate. I wanted to get more out of the bathmate. And it was Caleb Jones, who's still active. He had a forum back then this was like the forum before Chris's forum, but Caleb had it. It was a pickup forum. And I kind of was talking to people, I kind of said, well, this is what I'm into, A, B, and C. And I believe he was called Black Dragon back then. And Caleb was like, go to this site. He gave me a link to Good Looking Loser's site. He said, this is like more of your people. If you're into this if you're into working out and the bathmate and you want to get good with girls, this is like the site for you. Okay, so I went over there, and that's how I discovered that's how I actually discovered Chris. So it was kind of through the bathmate. And if you've noticed, all my male enhancement routines all are based around using the bathmate. There's no routine where the bathmate's not used. Okay, so and I learned a lot. I learned some cool tricks from him. There was a lot of guys on that site that were into the bathmate. The whole penis pumping gym bro, that might not exactly be the exact avatar that Chris was going after, but I tell you what, man, I remember somebody made a joke on the forum that all the pictures of the guys, everyone had a six-pack, and a lot of them were using the bathmate. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them were using the bathmate. So that's kind of where I came up with that avatar for myself. It's kind of a homage to that, right? So that's like number 3. The 4th thing I really got out of there is he presented to me the idea of screening, okay? And screening so I had gone through my early 20s, mid-20s. My girl life, my sex life was not phenomenally great. It was pretty bad. Still bad now, but back then it was way, way bad, really bad. And he introduced the concept of screening, which I've actually used outside of dating. Screening works in all sorts of situations, business, friends. It's actually probably the way you should live your life. And screening is this. Let's say you're vibing, you're giving off a sexual vibe, and the girl isn't into that. You don't change the vibe. You don't try to get her on board with that. You just go to the next girl, okay? That girl's not going to vibe with you. So move on to the next girl. That was his screening. That's basically what screening is. It's not you try to change them or you change yourself for them. It's either the game or the not game. And if they're not game, you just move on. Okay? That's That's why one of his saying, it's a numbers game, because you got to find somebody who's going to vibe with you. You're not gonna find, if you can't find somebody who vibes with you, that girl doesn't want to vibe with you, move on. That was kind of his teaching, and it was radically different than anything I had seen at the time. It was radically different than anything I'd seen at the time, because a lot of pickup forums, they were talking about how to build, they try to teach you how to take somebody who is a no to a maybe to a yes. That was kind of the pickup view, from no to maybe to yes. And they had like these long routines, and his view was, if it ain't a yes, then it's a no, and if it's a no, find somebody who's gonna be a yes, right? It wasn't convince them, it was find a yes, just find a yes, right? That's probably the biggest difference between what he was teaching and what at the other time the pickup artists of that era were teaching. Okay. And there's other things he taught about. It wasn't just the screening. He was really big into approach anxiety. He believed the number one thing that held people back was anxiety. That was his hill he fought on, right? He believed it wasn't looks, it wasn't it could be looks, but probably not. The number one thing was anxiety, mainly approach anxiety. Your ability to just go say hi to the girl. Okay, that was what he believed was the number one thing that held people back. So he had a whole program. It was an 8-week, 12-week program. It was a pretty good program. Okay, so that's what I learned from him about girls. And I think a lot of people misunderstood, well, not on the forum, but if you were an outsider, because he talked about banging, you need to bang 100 girls, and that was like a mile marker. Like if you tagged 100 girls, you were a you'd made it, right? You'd made it. And the thing he really I think the thing he was pushing for was the disenchantment of women. So like a lot of guys think women, not me. I used to think like this. Now it's hard for me to think like this. I remember in my early 20s, before meeting Chris's content, like women were like this magical, sacred creature, right? And after Chris's stuff, seeing really a lot of the posts and forum posts from the other guys, kind of helped, like did it more than anything I did. You could tell that they weren't these sacred, magical creatures, that they were, in fact, kind of as scummy as guys. That's really the thing I got out of it. They were just as scummy as men, maybe in a different way, but just as scummy, right? That's what I mean by the disenchantment. And I actually don't like, I don't say that to put women down. Like I don't think that was ever the intent. Chris's material was never meant to be used as a weapon against women. That wasn't his. In my view, that was not what he was getting at. What he was trying to teach was just like you gotta look at the human like you. That's basically what I would view it. Like you should enjoy the women, but understand they're not magical, right? So a more of a neutral view of them. That's what he was trying to get people at. Not a negative view, not a super positive view, a neutral view. Okay. So I call it the disenchantment of women. That's really what you should be getting out of this. And a lot of the guys ended up finding, not all of them, but Chris did, a few others did, found, like, I guess you would call your forever girlfriend or forever wife through this process. So that was the other thing I learned. And the last thing I learned was on money. Okay. only made a few videos on this, and I kind of wish he'd done more, because I think he had, honestly, everything. If you watch Alex Hormozi, not that Good Looking Loser had a ton of stuff on business and making money, but it almost all sounds like what Alex Hormozi says. Like a lot of action, a lot of work. Don't try to be smart, just do more stuff. And how the particular strategy that Chris used to make money was through affiliated marketing. That was his big, like that was his methodology of doing it. I don't really think it really matters how you do it. That the main thing is just keep doing volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes of work. So that's kind of the things. That's kind of what I've gotten out of the main stuff I got out of his community. There's a lot more. There's a lot more. But anyways, I thought I'd just make this video, and that's kind of, if you look at all my content, guys, that's really why sometimes things seem like a little like, why is he talking about this, or why is he talking about that? It's because I come from there. That's where I come from. And like I said, the lessons are just imprinted on me, and I'll continue talking about this stuff even until my death. Even if, like, let's say I'm 60, probably won't be talking about, like, banging new girls. But I'll probably still be talking about fitness, maybe more money at that age. You know what I mean? Stuff of that nature. So yeah, that's thought that'd be a little video just to answer that question, because I see it maybe a couple times, few times a year. Where do you come from? Where do you come from? And I thought that this would be a good video to make on that. So I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.